folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. Today for this adventure we're joined by Highlander 87, and today for this adventure we've come up to the beautiful wild lands of Glen Moy. Look at this folks, the old rusty road sign here, and I can actually see the moon is out in the sky. Today we've got some absolutely incredible weather for exploring. I was actually working this morning, so this is kind of an afternoon adventure, and we're going over the brow of this faraway hill here to document an ancient farm croft from probably dating back 1800s. You know how it is on this channel folks, history from all time periods, and we adventures into these mad lands just to see them and uncover layers of history. I was here one time ages ago in the summer, but sometimes in the winter it's better to come back because you can actually see the stuff which is normally covered over for like the long grass and that in the summer. Look at this incredible scene behind us folks, overlooking all these old abandoned crofts and buildings way in the distance, and we are literally going over this hill. There's not even a main road where we're going. The main road comes up Glen Moy and stops where I'm parked, and then these are just little tracks over the hill. These places are proper remote, hidden in wild lands and hardly seen, and it's so cool to come on wee adventures. This hill is so steep though folks, check it out. This is probably the worst bit of this walk. This is incredible folks, we've come over the top of the hill and we're now greeted with this incredible vast landscape, and the main little cottage kind of area we're trying to explore is over on that far hill. But in the foreground here there's also remains of an ancient settlement or croft, and these squares have actually been the remains of buildings. Yeah, this is cool folks, check it out. Even right here, probably before the days of the track, like cutting down through this place, little things like this were all constructed. And look, this has been a proper square. Wow, I explore so many places, I will always forget the details of the history, but this time of year you can see things so clearly. The old square of the wall, and then the wee building which probably stood here, a little farming building. Little farming communities that used to make up the lands of Scotland. And these buildings would have definitely be dating back to the 1700s or before it. Maybe even destroyed in like the Highland clearances and times like that. Yeah, it's incredible to see the outlines of these, and these are about the size of some of the old houses from that era. And then you can see the fence, well, the dike line leading around the outside of it. And what's cool, over there there's more ridges in the land and stuff leading their way around. Hear those birds making their call? They sound like alarm clocks or whatever. I'm not sure, there's like maybe gamekeeping cages and stuff over there.
What are you thinking?
No, we could just pretty much go any direction, I'm thinking. Yeah, there is a quad track going down that way. The main track kind of leads over there, but last time I came up this hill folks, I got electrocuted from the mains electricity, which is on these fences, and it's for the deer. It's for the control of the deer in these lands. Yeah, look, there's other walls leading around. It's been so much here. So much history hidden and almost forgotten in these lands, and I can see the dark scars on these hills. That's caused from them burning the heather, and that's part of the land management in Scotland for the rearing of hill birds such as grouse and things like that. Yeah, the character of this little croft over here is so cool, and this croft actually features an old water wheel pit and stuff like that, and each farm used to have a different way of working their farm mill, getting their power way out here in these incredible landscapes, miles from any main road. Again, it is just vast hill, and like some of them used to use a thing where animals powered the mill, they walked round and round in a circle. But then other farms like this, they made themselves a little dam with a fresh water source further up the hill, and then they had basically a lade, it was called, going down to the water wheel with a sluice mechanism to control the flow of water for switching on and off the water wheel, but also controlling the speed of the water wheel. And we can see evidence of this at this croft. I'm hoping to have a wee fly about with the drone as well on this adventure, and I'll include that footage at the end of the video. That's why I've got the backpack on today. Yeah, this place is so cool. Check it out, folks. We're going as the crow flies here in the land, but we can see this ridge in front of us, and I think it's been an old track for the longest time. Look, you can see piles of stones with natural quartz, the pure white, and that's in the land around Scotland and around here. Yeah, we really need to navigate across.
Right, you see that's electrified?
No, that fence there's no, but see the one over there? Yeah. It is electrified with the mains. But I think we'll be okay jumping over this in. There's been like a track, it could be a waterway though. We'll be able to jump, I think, though, no bother. The wee burn at the bottom of this hill is just meandering its way through the land, but we'll just have to be super careful of the bog-like conditions. Sometimes with a place like this, the original road is just part of the wild hill now, and it's hard to even see where it is. We've obviously come this route, which is probably quite a hardcore direction considering the bog conditions. Check it out, folks, we're on the sheer slope. Some of this earth as well could be underwashed. And yeah, the water's flowing down there, check it out. The little stream over the land, meandering its way through. Yeah, this whole area is super saturated. Right now, folks, we are in a bog, and we're just going to this higher ridge of the land because I think it is a wee bit drier underfoot. That was incredible. We came over that corner there, we were just in like 2 inches of water. Wow, this is a bit better. It is still super spongy. Wow, what a crazy land. Now we're in the same field as the croft. Right here, folks, there's a ridge in the land leading down, and this was probably the edge of the main farm field around the headquarters here of the croft. And I think it leads all the way around. Originally the land would have been drained, so there wouldn't have been so many boggy kind of areas and stuff like that. A lot of the ditches would have been dug, and the fields would have been created by the first farmers on these lands. And this was the little farms that they created. Originally crude, a little bit like the one we saw on the far hill a minute ago, and then later they were developed and changed as farming technology, but also household technology improved. The latest things were brought into these places as they were developed and evolved. And it's cool to come today now, years later, once they're abandoned, and see what's left. One day these places just got too old and outdated for their original purpose, and then from that day to this, they've just stood here in the land, decaying and falling down. Each year, the weather just takes its toll on the bricks and the timber works inside the old buildings. So I'm up here starting off with the exploration on the hill behind the farm, and you can literally see the old waterway here from the dam, which was further up there in that area. It had been dug out by the residents of this farm. The actual channel you can see coming around here would have been the overflow from the dam, and then this here was probably the sluice for increasing the flow of water down through the ridge of land, which we'll go and take a look at in a minute, and that was going straight to the water wheel. But how cool is it? You can see the old stonework, the old waterway, and that's the kind of history I love to document. Real Scottish history, folks, just kind of hidden and forgotten. And then up here is where the little water storage area was, the little farm dam. So here it is, folks. It looks like quite a crude construction nowadays because the wild hill has actually taken it back over. But this here would have been a body of water powering the farm operations for so many years. And this is the top end here, basically, of the waterway that we saw lower down the hill. And that's cool to see this bit of the history first. And gives you an idea of all that was done as far as the groundworks go. This incredible place. The history, it's just all over in the land in an area like this. And an old dam like that would almost go unnoticed. So it's cool to document it here on the video along with this croft as part of its history. And yeah, we'll go and take a look first of all at the water wheel pit, and then we'll take a look at the rest of the buildings. This would have been the old farmhouse cottage at this side. And then this would have been the main farm buildings, with the mill shed being the biggest shed at the right hand side. Obviously the water wheel was mounted in a separate little building at the side with a big pit. Highlander's away to also fly his drone. He's got his own YouTube channel as well, at Highlander87, and he includes a lot of cool drone shots and things that he gets. I'm going to include my drone shots that I'm going to take at the end of this, folks, so you know how it is. Stay tuned after the adventure for that. If you want to see how a place like this looks from the air, the conditions are so warm today, folks. We're not used to this in Scotland. It's starting to get a lot milder, and that's the reason it's cool to document this as well before it gets overgrown and covered up once again. Let's follow the waterway down this little channel to the farm. Look here, you can see, folks, how this water channel, as it comes down the hill, it's all been constructed and built by the original builders of this place. Nowadays it would look like just a natural channel in the ground, whereas actually it was all built and constructed. It's all a piece of the history. And now look at this, this would have been the little water wheel shed on the side of the building, and you can imagine the farmer coming out and in here on his daily routine, as he was saying to the farm and its needs, maybe coming out here to maintain the water wheel. But also there may have been companies that came around, like a bit of a mechanic that specialised in the water wheels. And look, you can see how it's been mounted here onto these stones. This would have been a deep hole with the water flowing from under that channel that we saw further up the hill. The waterway would have gone down underneath, turning the wheel. And then there must have been like a gear ratio here, turning another shaft, which then led in to the mill shed, which is at that side. And this is so cool to see it. You can imagine the thing turning and making its way around. Imagine the water spraying and stuff back at that time. And look at the incredible remains there, the old bolts that at one time held the wheel. So much just about gone forever and forgotten. And what a crazy view that is through there, looking along the front of the old farm. Each building constructed at a different time in history as technology progressed. There's even like a wee tree growing at the top of that now, and sometimes the roots can bust things apart. There's Highlander's drone going over top there. Anyway, let's head round this mill shed, folks. Wow, what a scene looking down this valley. Imagine looking at the front of this house and this was your view. Maybe at one time fields here growing with crops or animals kicking about. It actually looks like down here, as if there's been something. I can see kind of some stones. I'm going to walk a wee bit further down for a look. I'm not going all the way down yet though, folks. Yeah, down there's like almost a green area which looks different to the rest of the land. I'm not sure what other buildings and stuff was related to the farm. And look at it, it's been a massive construction in its day. You can see how the level area has been created in the land here in front of the buildings. Maybe the horse and cart would be getting rolled back and forward in here as they were doing their daily farming duties. Places like this date back so long ago, it's literally horse and carts. Maybe a thing like this would have been the old cart shed. So many years. Imagine the folk that worked here and lived here. This would have been their day-to-day hustle and bustle. They maybe didn't even know much beyond these lands. And then look at the character of this, the little cottage. Almost gone and forgotten. And I think these are some of the old pillars, the old wooden posts, which at one time must have held some sort of little porch on the front of here. Look at this place, folks. Let's head on in. The chimney's hardly even standing up. That wall looks like it would fall down so easily. And it is crazy because this would have been the main kitchen area or whatever in the farm. You can still see the white paint on the fire surround. And then you look here, the old bit where the cooking apparatus used to mount on there. And we see that on a lot of these old Scottish houses. Every one of them would have had that for the cooking. They basically could hook all their kettle, their pans and their pots, but also like a metal plate for making different things. Now look at this here, the way that chimney is so tall. Sometimes they had to have quite a high chimney in these lands to get a proper draw, so the smoke would actually go out the chimney. That's sometimes why they did that on these places. But that's been obviously a little middle room, maybe a bedroom that's also had the fireplace. And then I think this back room here has been added on at a later time. And that was maybe when they actually brought sanitisation and stuff into the houses. Because look, there's evidence there of a pipe, maybe from a sink. So this may have been like a wash house, or even maybe like a bathroom or whatever. Sometimes they would have had a water source from the same dam that we saw for the water wheel. Maybe at one time they had a wee pipe and it was just enough for them to get fresh water down here at the farm. Imagine looking out your window and just seeing this. It's like the track does lead off that way, and it might join up with the first track we were on, but it looks like these tracks lead all the way over the hill. And it is so cool to see. This has been the little back door of the farmhouse. Yeah, it's properly shaped like sandstone pieces. So it is interesting to see that, the architecture of that. I was thinking this had been built at a different time, but it's hard to see. Sometimes stones like this were actually reclaimed from other buildings and other constructions, maybe more grand in the area, that were getting demolished. Sometimes locals and that would build their newer farmhouses with parts of the older buildings that they didn't need. And I'm thinking this may have been like a little farmhouse garden. And then this track here could have been one of the main tracks in the glen. Nowadays we think of this as kind of like a remote area, whereas at one time it could have been just as important as the other main roads in the land. And it is crazy to consider the hundreds of years that a place like this has stood in the land. Wow, I don't think that wall has even got long left. So to see it with the chimney up there still standing, it's cool to document it before it falls. The interesting thing is it's got the fine cut sandstone up there for the chimney and also around this extension bit, whereas the walls are made with the rough hill stone, which they would have collected from all around this area. The Scottish hills and landscape are covered with stones and rocks. Anyway, I'm going to go down here and get a different angle of the house. I just love to see that, folks. That's so cool. Real Scottish history once again. All the way from the old house to the dam and the water wheel. A place like this has just got so many layers. And you can see the height from the field level that they've built their foundation here. And look at the stones they've used. Maybe at one time limestone mortar, which is now washed out from the wild weathers. And the more years that pass, folks, that stuff's just going to keep falling down more and more. I'm just blown away. I always say it on the videos, I'm blown away by what I'm seeing. Look at the old doorstep, it's just all starting to fall away. What is that even there? Look, it's like some little piece of flint or something. It had like a proper pearly kind of glaze to it almost. Sometimes at these places you find old bits of pottery and things which had been dumped. The old blue glass there was often used for pills and things. Anything from the doctor or the chemist back in the olden days used to often be in the blue glass bottles. And look, the animals have been digging it up as they've been burrowing. Probably the rabbits and the hares digging their holes and building their houses under the ground. I think these buildings here would be part of the oldest farm as well. There was maybe a croft here originally dating back to the same time period as the one at the other side of the glen. Each of these would have been a little farm shed. In the winter the sun's at quite a low angle in Scotland and it creates this crazy shadow, which is no very good for the footage, folks. Anybody that makes videos, they're often aware of the shadow and its position. Look at this here as well. This wall is just leaning right over and the whole thing could fall down any second. But look how the brackets is still, well, the holes have been there for the door. It wouldn't really be brackets, it'll be like wooden pegs. And then the door frame will be screwed into that. And you can see some slight remains of the limestone mortar. I wouldn't even want to touch that wall in case it falls right down. Anyway, let's take a wee look into this building. Wow, it's like all this has recently fallen. That was often a way they used to split stone originally back in the day as well. they would drill into it and then put a wedge into it. Other times, a bit of gunpowder. They would just drop a wee bit of gunpowder into the hole, and when they pop it, it just split along the drilling holes. Yeah, these have all, I think these have been farm sheds because there's no sign of like the fireplaces and stuff. Look, the wall's got a strengthening support through it. The size of some of these stones in the wall are just absolutely incredible. They're massive boulders, probably collected from the surrounding area. Anyway, let's head out this old door. Look, there's bits of the door frame still in, like the bit of the hinge. Just think of the years that was opening and shutting and rattling in the wind. Maybe the animals in the sheds would get to know the noise of the door opening and shutting, and they would get excited when they hear the farmer come in because they're about to get a feed. The cows would start mooing. And then one day, like, it's mad just to think a place like this fell silent. It is probably still grazing lands for sheep or whatever, but each time I've been, I've not actually seen any of that up here. I think it is a good area for game keeping as well, and there's a lot of shooting still goes on in these lands. Look at this lintel stone here above the door. It's completely crumbled. Look how it's fallen away at this side. And that shows this whole wall here could probably drop right down. There's metal brackets and stuff sticking out as well. Yeah, this is where the mill would have been, and the drive shaft from the water wheel would have been coming in through this hole. And this was probably one of the more modern sheds. This shed here in the house, I think, would have been updated and maintained to the latest order for the longest time. And then I think eventually it was all just abandoned. But this would have probably had 2 levels. And sometimes they would throw the barley and the wheat up through the top, and then they would drop it down through into the mill from the higher level. And that's how these old mill sheds has always got the loft and the loft hatch. And wow, yeah, I can hear Highlanders drone. It sounds like a swarm of wasps or bees outside the mill, or outside the mill shed. That's been a big door though there compared to some of the other doors we've seen. Because it's been for industrial purposes. And it's cool to see the way this building here's kind of been built onto the side of this original one. This older building would have been here from an earlier time. And the interesting thing, there's actually a limestone render here, and this is what they used to even use on the house walls at a certain time in Scotland. Each of these walls has had that. I think there's been like a wooden beam or whatever in there originally, holding up the second story floor. And then there would have been the doors and stuff. There is just layers of this place falling down, and that's what these piles of rubble are. The walls at one time were twice as thick, but once the limestone render comes out, everything else just starts to fall. The slightest breeze. There's so many spider webs I'm seeing in the grass. I'm just walking through them. Every now and again I see spider webs even going over the camera. Anyway folks, I'm going to get my drone out and I'm going to go for a fly about in this incredible area. So since the last clip you just saw folks, I've actually been flying the drone around, and that was so cool. It's probably been like a month and a half since I even had the drone out, just because of the weather conditions in Scotland. It's either been too windy or too wet. So today it was just perfect. And I was doing some low flying over this terrain and getting some amazing shots of this place, just to get an idea of how it looks from the sky. Gives you another aspect of the history. What a mad adventure it's been. So the interesting thing folks, this old boundary wall here lines up with the house wall, and I just wondered how far it maybe originally continued. It is interesting to see though, and there's been so much little walls and things built in this area. Each little wall was for a purpose or a reason, for the control of animals or for the growing of crops. And it was interesting to see the little channels under the ground for the waterway as well, all that built with stone. It's amazing what they did with stone and for the control of the water. But it's amazing to think how everything was self-sufficient and powered from their natural resources they had around back years ago. Whereas nowadays, nothing like that is self-sufficient, but yet we claim to be more economical and more green than ever. Whereas actually we've gone completely backwards. You can just imagine the wee horse and cart trundling its way down here to the farm. Imagine the smoke coming out the chimney and the noise of the animals kicking about. maybe one day we'll have to go up these other tracks and see if there's any more abandoned history within this land. I do enjoy an adventure into a place like this. I think the first hill we climbed was the steepest one today. It's just incredible to see so many miles of vast landscape, not a main road in sight, but also there's no trees. There's just little bundles of trees here and there, but no forests. It's quite wide open, vast landscape, and it makes for a mad adventure to find history like that in the middle of it. I came higher on the hill to see this area, thinking it may have been a higher dam, but actually I'm thinking it's just a quarry now. But look at this view. I thought I need to throw the camera back on. You can see the haze in the air today. I think they are actually burning heather at certain locations as well, in some of the different glens, and I think that causes this smoke in the air. But at the side of the main path here we can see fresh evidence of the heather burning, so you can see up close how it looks when they're finished. And basically this is for the control of the heather, so it doesn't get overgrown. It gives the grouse and stuff fresh seed and stuff to eat, but also fresh pieces of land to graze or like to nest in. Look at this, folks, we've literally come over the hill back into the same valley that we've parked, and it's such an amazing view. There's little abandoned crofts and buildings the whole way up the glen, and it gives it such a character. It's almost like we're visiting planet Earth in like 100 years and there's no humans left. Each place is just a ghost town. It's just old buildings. Look at the view down this way. I think that misty haze could be from the burning of heather in a different glen though. You do get that haze sometimes with the dampness coming out of the ground. So it is just hard to tell what we're seeing today, but it makes for an incredible view as the hills kind of disappear into the distance, into the haze. This is our route, look, down through this barren wilderness to the edge of this field. I love coming into lands like this, folks. This is real Scotland. You can see the track from the Gamey's quad or the Shepherd's quad up here. And normally when you see this grass growing, that's the bog grass. It grows in the super wet ground here in the glen. And in another month or so, this will all be lush green grass. And the landscape all around here will change. All the brown hills will end up purple with the heather as the year progresses. But this is the start of the better conditions as far as the weather goes. The past month it's been windier and a bit wetter at the weekends, but we always make the most of our chance to explore. And each week it's cool just keeping on documenting more things and keeping having these adventures. So here we are, folks, back down at the little main road here at the top of Glen Moy, and this is literally as far as the main road comes. It's one of these glens, you have to come up to the top, turn around and go back down. The only other tracks on these hills are like the mud tracks, similar to what we walked on there for this adventure. But that was cool to explore that history and document what was there. See it at this time of year when it's not all covered from the overgrowth and the greenery. But we're going to end it here. Stay tuned for the drone footage at the end of this one, folks. Anyway, I'm ending it here. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye from me. Goodbye from Highlander 87. And we'll catch you very soon for the next adventure, wherever we end up going.